الخير شباب.
صباح النور.
Okay, so let's resume the chapter 5. So last time we have seen how to build a yield curve. We have seen that we can do it first of all by using first the theoretical spot trade technique by using the interpolation, right? Then we have seen that this method was not very accurate because every time you are dealing with two maturities, let's say with, for example, with 2 and 5 years, there is a long distance between these two maturities, which makes our interpolation less accurate. So then we have seen a second technique, more accurate, which is the bootstrapping technique. It allows us to identify for each period its own yield to maturity. Such a method will allow us to have more accurate forecast for the fair value of the bond. Once we have a more accurate forecast for the fair price or for the price of the bond, we can undertake the right decision of investment compared to the observed price of the bond.
Waiting for you.
Sorry, Abdulaziz.
I'm waiting for your
Okay.
Just
Done. So these are the most important points that we have dealt with during the last lectures. For today's lectures, we will see another important concepts called the forward rates, and it should be the last thing or last concept that we should examine during this course. So the last lecture for next week, inshallah, would be dedicated to a general review. So if you have any questions, if you want to solve any exercise, please send it to me before the lectures, and we'll try to do it during the next lecture, inshallah. So let's move to the textbook, right? So we are done with the theoretical spot trade curve.
Doctor, sorry for this review, but what about the final exam?
Okay, so
we choose some chapters because it's, I don't know, maybe long than what can.
Yes. So for the the last exam, it will be on the price volatility and the yield curve, which is the 4th and 5th chapter, right?
Okay, the volatility and the yield curve.
Yes.
There is, I think it's all of the question will be multiple choice.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely. So we don't have any other choice, right? So it would be on Blackboard, and all the questions would be multiple choice, whether they are theoretical questions or practical ones.
Chapter 4.
Okay, should we enroll ourselves in the e-learning, or it's the same idea of Blackboard?
Sorry, Abdulaziz.
I said you will put the exam in the e-learning or in the Google form or something like this.
So actually, at Qasim University, we are using Blackboard, right? So I have to check with Hamd Daas or with Dr. Qasim Zirgat, so to see what is the best choice for Rush University, right? So let me check with them, and I will I will let you know what would be the best platform that we would use for the final exam.
And it will be 2 hours or
yes, no, 2 hours. Open book, 2 hours, right? So I think it would be enough time for you to solve the whole exam, right?
Okay, how many questions?
What chapter?
So the chapters, Ahmed, are the 4th and 5th chapter, right? 4th and 5th.
Thank you.
Now for let's go on, Abdulaziz.
I said, how many questions you suppose will happen?
Honestly, I still don't know, right? Because I didn't yet prepare the exam, but I think maybe 20 questions, right, for everyone on one mark.
Well, okay. What if we can make? Okay, I don't know. You are the professor, not I.
Go on.
But I'm just supposing to be maybe more than 20 will be good, because if you lost maybe, for example, 1 mark, you will lose 1% of the whole marks. I'm just supposing if we can make it as 25.
I think 20 marks would be good, and with 20 questions would be good. First, because we are obliged to have the exam on 20 marks. This is a ministry decision, right? Not ours.
Yes.
80 marks on the internal, on the assignments and the report, and 20 marks on the final exam. So for the final exam, I think, you are lucky because you will use an open book. It will be an open book exam. You will use Excel, so you are sure to about not to make errors of calculus, right? So I think 2 hours is very fair, and we can even plan it for the evening after the iftar, for example, so we can be more comfortable. I think 20 marks on just 2 chapters, right, would be really, really very fair.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, guys. Any other questions?
Okay. So next, the questions that we have in the exam, we will ask you, inshallah, in the next lecture, which is
Yes, absolutely. So if you are curious about some exercise to solve, if you are skeptical about some concepts, so please just email me right before the next lectures, and we'll try to gather all your requests, try to deal with them during the next lecture, inshallah. Right?
inshallah.
Okay, guys, so let's move to the forward rates. So until now, we have dealt with the spot rates. So we have learned that the spot rates should be updated for every maturity, right? Using the bootstrapping technique. And we have learned that such a technique, using or based on the hypothetical, spot rates curve, is more accurate than using just 1 year to maturity for all the payments or all the coupon payments, regardless of the period. We have seen that by updating, the yield to maturity for every period, we are getting a more accurate, forecast for the fair value or the fair price of the bond, which in turn will allows us to, to undertake a better investment decision compared to the observed price of the bond. Now let's take a look to another useful concept called the forward rate, right? So the forward rate is about to forecast not the price of the bond, but to forecast what would be the price or the rate offered by, or the yield to maturity offered by a bond for the next 6 months, right? It's about forecasting now the yield to maturity, not the price of the bond. So let's see how should it work. So to see, so we are at page 109. So these are the forward rates. So to see the importance of knowing the market's consensus for future interest rates, consider the following 2 investment alternatives for an investor who has a 1-year investment horizon. So now the forward rate will allow us to guess what would be the consensus and الاتفاق أو إجماع of the market regarding the future rates for for debt securities. So suppose we are an investor and we are facing 2 alternatives. The maturity is for 1 year. So the first alternative is to invest our money in a treasury bill with a maturity of 1 year. The second, alternative is to invest our money in a treasury bill for 6 months, then to renew, the investment for the remaining 6 months. So both of these two alternatives have 1 year of time horizon, right? But for the first one, it is one shot. We'll invest our money at T0 and we'll get it back after 1 year. Well, for the second alternative, we'll do it through two steps. First one, we'll invest our money with the observed yield to maturity today for 6 months. Then wait after 6 months, get our money back, then invest it once again for with the yield to maturity that would prevail after 6 months. So for the second alternative, we are just observing one yield to maturity for 6 months, and then we are trying to guess what would be the future interest rate or yield to maturity for 6 months treasury bills after 6 months. So I hope this makes sense with you, right? The difference between alternative 1 and alternative 2. واضح ولا يا شباب؟ فرق بينهم؟
Yes.
Yes.
Good. So once we are talking about two investment alternatives, there is always an arbitrage opportunity, which means that if one of those two alternatives will offer me, the investors, a high amount of money, I would for sure choose this, this alternative, right? Over the other one. So this is called the arbitrage opportunity. A market at the equilibrium wouldn't allow me to have such an arbitrage opportunity, and these two alternatives should give me, the investors, the same amount of money, right? So,
Sorry, Doctor, what's the link between the arbitrage and this again?
between the arbitrage and
You said there is an opportunity in arbitrage. What is the opportunity? Sorry.
right. So suppose that now we are trying to invest our money for 1 year, right? But we are trying to do it by two different ways, two different alternatives.
Yeah.
So if the market was at the equilibrium,
Yes.
since we are at the same market and we are investing our money for the same horizon of time, we should, have the same gain by the end of the year. And it doesn't matter if I'm investing my money for one shot or if I'm investing, my money through two steps, right? So this is the equilibrium. I should have the same amount of gain. Now, if one of these two alternatives, let's say investing my money one shot for 1 year, will allow me to have more money than I would have if I have invested my money through two steps, this means that there is an arbitrage opportunity. I will give you an example. Now, suppose I'm investing $100 for 1 year, and this treasury bill is offering me, let's say, 10%, right? So I should have 10% of gain by 1 year. Now, suppose that I'm investing my money for 1 year also by using or by two consecutive treasury bills of 6 months. So my first investment would be 6 months, then I would have my money back, and I invest this money once again for 6 months, all right? Now, for the first one, I get $10 of gain. Now, for the second one, I get, let's say, $15 per year. After 1 year, $15, right? So for the first one, despite the fact that I'm investing my money for the same horizon of time, which is 1 year, what would be my decision here? If I was, an enough smart, investors, what would be my decision? If for the first alternative, I have $10 of gain, while for the second one, which is for the same time horizon, I'm getting $15. What would be my decision?
I will go for the second one for
Yes,
two consecutive 6-month treasury bills.
Actually, this is a less smarter decision. There is a smarter decision than this one. An arbitrage opportunity. You know what we mean about arbitrage? Arbitrage is the fact that you are able as an investor to make gain without bearing any risk. This is, the more, maybe it is considered as the most important dream for every investor, making money without bearing risk. تاخذ أرباح من غير مخاطرة. Actually, what I would, have done in such situation, I would issued one. So I'm not buying, I'm issuing one treasury bill. I can't issue. I can't do it because I'm not the government. But I'm trying to simplify, the question, right?
Is what I was asking, as a company or as a government?
No, I'm just try. So because as a company you can make what's called short sell, right? But I'm trying to simplify the question for you.
Okay.
So you can issue a debt security for 1 year, right? So we are not any longer buying the issue, buying the debt security. You are issuing. So you are receiving money. You are receiving $100 at T0. So now we will use this $100 to invest it with second alternatives for 6 months, then to renew for another 6 months, right? So by the end, you are investing in the second alternative with the money you have recuperated from the first alternative. So you are not investing your own money, right? Now, suppose that we are at the end of the first year. So on one hand, since you have issued debt securities, you are owing people the payment of coupon equal to $10. So you have to pay the investors that have bought from you the security. You owe him $10. Now, because you have, on the other hand, invested this $10 in another investment opportunities, you will receive $15. So we get the $15 from second alternatives, give $10 to the guy who has bought, the bond from you, and keep the $5 extra for you. I hope it is clear for you guys.
Yeah, no.
Yes.
Okay, so now let's suppose that we are doing this arbitrage, process for a larger amount of money. For let's say for $1 million, for $10 million. So see, every time you are increasing, the amount, the initial invested amount, you will have a very high amount of arbitrage gain by the end of the time horizon. So this is the good thing with arbitrage, that you can make a lot of money without bearing risk. But we'll see later that such an arbitrage opportunity is very limited in the time, right? Because so if there is such an opportunity, it is likely that most of the investors will do the same thing, which is issuing one 1-year security and investing in 2 6 months debt securities on the other hand. So imagine now that all the people will do the same thing. So if there is an important issue of 1-year debt securities, this means there is an extra offer. And if there is an extra offer, this means that in order to attract investors, you have to propose them a higher interest rate, right? Now, the 10% will go up. At the same time, if you are, asking for more 6 months debt securities, this means there is an extra demand for these type of debt securities, which means in turn that the interest rate of these 6 months debt securities will go down from 15% to down, right? So we have two mechanisms. The 10% will go up and 15% will go down until reaching, the equality, and, in such case, the arbitrage opportunity will disappear. So the arbitrage is is very limited in the time. So better be very smart and take the opportunity whenever it comes to you. Because if you will, let's say, if you will be doubtful about the opportunity and say, no, no, let's take more time to think about it, so it will disappear, it will vanish, all right? So it is a matter of seconds, especially on the most developed financial markets. So let's continue. So the investors would be indifferent to the two alternatives if they produce the same total dollars over the 1 year investment horizon. Given the 1 year spot rate, there is some rate on a 6-month instrument 6 months from now that will make the investor indifferent between the two alternatives. So we denote the rate by F. So the Z is for the spot rate, while the F is for the forward rate. So we are observing, or we are already, or have already computed the Z, and we are trying to guess what would be the F. So total dollars so this is the exhibit 5.8, which illustrates the two alternatives for 1 year investment. So this is the first one, see? So we use the Z2 for the first one, because Z2, because since we have agreed that all our debt securities are semi-annual coupon payments. This means that we will, or this debt security of 1 year will pay the investors twice, the coupon payments every 6 months. So 1 plus Z2, C power 2. And by the end, we receive $100 times 1 plus Z2 power 2. While for the second alternative, so we are making two investments in a row. So the first one is using the current or the existing treasury bills that we are observing today. And we should finish by have 1 plus Z1. So Z1 is the yield to maturity or the spot rate for the 6 months treasury bills today. Now, after 6 months, now we are trying to guess. So the F is not observed anymore, but you are trying to guess. So if the market was at the equilibrium, the F should be, or should, should meet the following condition, which is the final amount received after 1 year for second alternative must be equal to the final amount received by the end of the year using the first alternatives. So if there is an equilibrium at the market, these two expressions should be equal. Since we already know what would be the Z2 and the Z1, it becomes more, or it becomes easier to find the forward rate after 6 months. So if an investor placed $100 in a 1 year instrument for the alternative one, the total dollars that will be generated at the end of 1 year is 100 times 1 plus Z2 power 2. So Z2 is the 1 year spot rate. So the proceeds from investing at the 6 months spot rate will generate the following total dollars at end of 6 months. So we have $100 times 1 plus Z1. So this is for the second alternatives. If the amount in equation 5.2 is reinvested at the 6 month rate, 6 months from now, which we denoted F, the total dollars at the end of 1 year would be, so 100 times 1 plus Z1. So this first component will be received after 6 months. Then it will be reinvested for the next 6 months until reaching 1 year at the rate F. Now at the equilibrium, we should have 5.1 equal to 5.3, which means that the investors will have the same amount of money by the end of the time horizon. So 100 times 1 plus Z2 power 2 equal to 100 times 1 plus Z1 times 1 plus F, which means that 1 plus F is equal to 1 plus, so we can simplify by 100, see? So we can simplify by 100. So we'll have 1 plus Z2 squared divided by 1 plus Z1. So we'll move 1 plus Z1 to the other side of the equation, then minus 1, and we can simply have the F. It's very simple. So the F is equal 1 plus Z2 power 2 divided by 1 plus Z1 minus 1. So we can use, for more concreteness, we can illustrate the use of equation 5.5 using the theoretical spot rates shown in exhibit 5.6. So see, all the exhibits are interrelated, right? So we are still, using the same process. We have started by finding the spot rate using, the interpolation technique. Then we have used this interpolation technique to find the theoretical spot rates using the bootstrapping technique. And now we are using the bootstrapping technique that you have found last time in order to compute the forward rates. So we are still, keeping the same path. So let's go to 5.6, exhibit 5.6. Let's go back to 5.6. So this is the 5.6. See, so theoretical spot rates. So we are dealing about, so this is the one observed at T0, all right? So at T0, if we are interested by investing our money during 6 months, we will use the 5.25%. Now, if we are interested about investing our money at T0 for 1 year, which is the alternative one, we should consider the 5.5% interest rate or spot rate. Okay, so see, so for 6 months spot rate, you are using the 5.25%. This is the annual rate, don't forget. And then we are paying semi-annual coupon. So we have to divide by 2 to get the Z1. So Z1 is 0.02625, which is 0.0525 divided by 2. And then if we are interested to the alternative one, and we are willing to invest our money for 1 year, we should use the spot rate for 1 year, which is 0.055. And then if we convert it to semi-annual basis, we should have 0.0275 as spot rate. Now, all we have to do is just to use these two rates into the formula of 5.5. So the F would be equal to 1.0275 power 2 divided by 1.02625 minus 1 equal to 0.028752. Then we should multiply this result by 2 to get the annual rate. So therefore, the annual rate for F on a bond equivalent basis is 5.75%, which means that the investors are expecting that the rate for debt securities of 6 months after 6 months would be equal to 5.75%. So we are making here a bet, or we are making an expectation that after 6 months, the 6 months spot rate would be equal to 5.75% instead of 5.25% today. I hope it's clear, guys.
Yes.
So
Yes.
now that we have the rate for F that we are interested in, and we know how that rate can be used, let's return to the questions we posed at the outset. From exhibit 5.7, the 6 month spot rate is 5.25%. So this is the spot rate for a 6 month treasury bill today. Now we are expecting that this rate would change after 6 months, and it would become 5.75%. So this is which is the forward rate. Right? Suppose that the investor expects that 6 months from now, the 6 month rate will be 5.6%. What would be his decision? Would he choose the first alternative or second alternatives. So as I'm summarizing, today the 6-month spot rate is 5.25%. And this guy is expecting that this rate will change and will increase to become 5.6% after 6 months, right? And he's still interested in investing his money during 1 year. And he still has the choice between alternative 1 and alternative 2. What choice should he make? Should he, choose, or should he choose the alternative 1 or the alternative 2?
Alternative 2, I think.
Why? Because the 6 months spot rate is increasing.
Yes, and the average of the two periods is greater than the alternative 1 overall rate.
Okay, but
But he will choose 1 year.
1 year.
He will invest in 1 year.
Why,
And
Abdulaziz?
will be higher. The average for two period will be higher than when.
Actually, the average, I think the average for 1 year is higher because 5.25 plus 5.60% divided by 2, while for the 1 year is equal to how much? 5.5%, right?
Yes.
So let's check it. Let's check if, so for the average, 5.25 plus 5.6 divided by 2, it would be 5.425%, while for 1 year is 5.5%. So the 1 year spot average is higher than the second alternatives. But actually, we can't, use the average technique because it is a compound rate, not an arithmetic, average. It is a geometric average or a compounded, rate of interest. بمعنى أنه when you are getting your money after 6 months, we'll invest it back with the interest for the next 6 months. So we can't choose the arithmetic average for such situation. Actually, the answer is very simple. So we don't have to compare, the expectation for the investors to the current situation. So we don't have to say that, okay, after 6 months, I'm expecting that the forward rate or the future rate would be equal to 5.6%, while now it is just 5.25%. You have to compare this 5.6%, you have to compare it to the forward rate, which is the consensus of the market, right? So the market is expecting 5.75% after 6 months, right? So even if you choose to reinvest your money 6 months later from now at a higher rate compared to the current rate, you are losing compared to the market because the market is expecting 5.75%, right? So in order to take the right decision of investment, you have to compare your expectation as a single investor to the forward rate, which is the consensus of the market, right?
Yes.
So this is, the key point. So we don't have to compute the average of the, of the interest rates. You don't have to compare the 1 year with 6 months. You have to compare your expectation as a single investors to the expectation of the whole market, which is the consensus of the market, which is the forward rate. If your expectations is aligned with the expectation of the market, which is the forward rate, so you have to take same decision other than the market. If you expect less than the market, so better use the alternative 1. If you expect that the rate will be higher than the consensus of the market and you are ready to challenge the market, better, put your money in the alternative 2. So it's up to the comparison between your, expectations with the market consensus. So now let's see, let's push the analysis forward, right? So until now we have seen how to compute the forward rate for a period of 6 months over 1 year. Now, let's see if we can use it for you know, wider time horizon. So in general, the relationship between a T period spot rate, the current 6-month spot rate, and the 6-month forward rate is as follows. So the ZT is, let's say the forward spot rate that we are looking for the period T is equal 1 plus Z1 times 1 plus F1, 1 plus F2, F3, until reaching Ft minus 1. The whole is power 1 divided by T minus 1. So let's take a real example or more concrete example. So let's look at how the 5-year, which is 10 periods, spot rate is related to the 6-month forward rates. So 6-month forward rates were calculated for the spot rate given in Exhibit 5.6. So the values for F1 through F9 are as follows, right? So these are the values from the next 6 months until the 4.5 years. So the 6 months spot rate is 2.625%. So which is the spot 6 months spot rate that we are observing today at T0 for the next 6 months. So substituting these values into questions 5.6, we have, so the Z10, see, which is the spot rate for after 5 period from now, so sorry, 5 year, which is 10 periods. So 1 plus Z1, which is this one, times 1 plus F1, see, so this is 1 plus F1. So this one is 1 plus Z1. So this one is the Z1. This one is the F1, F2, see, the F2 here, F3, and so on, and reaching the F10, sorry, F9, which is this one, 1 plus F9. Now the whole expression here is on power 1 by 10 minus 1 equal to 3.6%. So these values, when doubled, should agree with the 5-year spot rate shown in Exhibit 5.6. So 3.6, times 2 is equal to 7.2%. If you go to the Exhibit 5.6, for 5 years, see, and 10 periods, we should end by having the same spot rate. So we can use the forward rate in order to also, to guess the future spot rates. Any question, guys?